had a couple of exchanges, but I generally support what you're doing. It's true.
This is what they want. This is what they want. What's the deal with the cemetery? I thought we were down to find things. Here, this is St. Paul Cemetery. 95 townhomes. There are rigid state laws. I'm talking about the state of Florida. I could have been used to it. But you cannot build a cemetery. That's what happened to John State laws, they were trying to talk to this guy at the local construction. I remember
I call to order and announce our, calling to order Public Zone Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for Wednesday, the 12th, 2024 to order at 6:41 p.m. I will ask our alternate, Mr. Neela, to please take the podium and sit in place 6. At this time, I will announce that a quorum is present. Public comments, non-agenda item, public comments, white cards. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics for the length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Agenda items, public comments, yellow cards. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda items and agenda items combined for a length of the time to not exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items, except for public hearing. Comments on public hearing items must be made when the items come before the board, commission, or committee, and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action or discussion may be taken by the board, commission, or committee during the public comments on non-agenda items. To address the board, commission, committee, please complete the white or yellow card and present it to the city staff designated prior to the meeting. First one we got is Mr. Robert Bataille. Mr. Bataille, our vice chair, will be keeping your time for you.
Who's that?
Our vice chair.
Mr. Prince.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Robert Bataille. Good to be here. I'm still a big fan of you guys, although seems like you're still struggling to become a commission instead of Mr. Dunlap's committee. You need to start being proactive is what we need. I'm having to go down and talk to the Texas Capitol, the Senate, about trying to save our cemetery and trying to save the homestead from this comprehensive plan that you guys approved. This is total nonsense. And you were just at Maynard-Palooza. They kind of pretended that planning and zoning was putting that together to talk about the comprehensive plan and get input from the current existing plan. We spent $318,000 on. This is what you guys want to do to our little Parson Street. That's grotesque. The only thing we have is our history. Otherwise, we're going to be a subdivision from Elgin to Austin. James B. Maynor is not even mentioned on our Maynor history webpage on our website. How do we explain that? I meet 1 or 2 or 3 people a day who've lived here their whole life, went to school here, and they never heard of James Maynor. Now, the park committee just did a master plan. This was their master plan. They didn't even spell the name of Timmerman Park right. The guy who did it couldn't even pronounce Timmerman. He called it Tiananmen Park. Guess what? The north arrow points to the west. It's on its side, and it doesn't even mention 2/3 of the park. They did a master plan, and 2/3 of the park are not even in it. That's hard to believe. Now, there's quite a few things here that we need to get rid of, and one of them is these dashboards. This is a dashboard in the comprehensive plan. None of the people in Old Maynor were surveyed for this. If you believe this bunch of nonsense, this says a single family detached home in Old Maynor is only worth 1 dot. I got news for you guys. This is a historic district. The single-use family detached homes are 5 dots. And this large multi-family apartment units and stuff are like 0 dots. You want to put 400 apartments over here next to the homestead. The homestead is like our Alamo. It's behind the Lions Club. It's 3 little creepy shacks. Pete Dwyer's been sitting on those for like 20 years, and we can't get any traction for our own homestead. This is embarrassing. Now, since I have to talk about 10 other items on here.
Time's up.
That's 5 minutes?
It's 3 minutes.
Well, I have 2 more minutes.
No, you filled out the white card that says 3 minutes.
I filled out a white card and a yellow card.
Right. So you filled out the white card for 3 minutes, and it's up to our discretion if you talk 2 more minutes. So
one is for the Austin Bocce League, one's for Robert Bataille.
I know the white card is for the Austin Bocce League.
Well, why didn't you introduce me as the Austin Bocce League?
Because your name is Robert Bataille.
I was speaking for an organization, man. Okay, so what I would like you to do, if you don't mind, is my 3 minutes, those count towards my Robert Bataille, and now I get 2 more minutes for agenda items. And then in a minute, you call me back and I will talk as the Austin Bocce League. Does that sound reasonable?
No.
It doesn't. Why not? Do we have a parliamentarian here? I'm just kidding. Okay, so what's the skinny, if you don't mind?
So you filled out a white card. That's what the public comments is for. The non-agenda items. That's the first thing we talk about.
I filled that out for the Austin Bocce League. You did not introduce the Austin Bocce League.
Mr. Bataille, I'm not here to introduce people.
Yes, you are here to introduce people. You're here to introduce an organization. Oh, God.
You know what, sir? You can be escorted out.
Yes, I can. You can learn how to do your job, too. That's my remonstrance. You don't get to escort me out.
Do you want to mount?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know what remonstrance is? Pardon me?
Where did you go?
I'm going to leave. I'm going to get myself together. You guys are going to learn remonstrance is protected speech. Someday you'll be a commission.
All right, moving on. Miss, I hope I don't mess this up. Miss Krista. All right. Now, Miss Krista, you know this is your white card for.
Yes,
3 minutes,
I'm
okay.
aware. Yes. Okay. Hi, my name is Krista Swear. I have a small ranch on 973. The first time I met with you guys was in 2022 when KB Homes was first presenting their plans. My concern at that time was the water that comes off of their property. Shortly after that, I met with their engineering team. They promised their plans were going to be great. They are not. In less than 1 inch of rain, I experienced flooding. What I have found since then is that it's not just me that experiences flooding, it's my immediate neighbor, Benny Paul. It's several other neighbors down the way, all the way down to 290. There's about 12 properties. And then coming to City Hall meetings, I have found that since stormwater is a topic of conversation for the city, that other farmers are also experiencing flooding based on the developments that Manor is allowing. My concerns are that the city is approving engineering plans for detention ponds, which are only dry. They do not retain water from their developments. Retention ponds help keep water where it falls and soaks back into the ground. It also helps clarify the water as it goes into the ground. It's better for the environment. If the engineering teams built something that was useful and pretty, it would also be a place that people can gather. There are other neighborhoods in this area of the county, like in Pflugerville, where the retention ponds are incorporated into the parks where people walk and gather, and they look more natural. So this is probably just going to be my first of many meetings with you guys, because I've been to City Hall meetings now repeatedly. It's exhausting, but what really needs to happen as the city grows is that you need to hold these developers accountable for what they're designing, including commercial development. When you look at HEB, Home Depot, these schools, they can do rainwater catching. We see multiple posts every week of residents drinking and bathing and washing their clothes in brown water. We could hold our engineers and our billion-dollar developers to create something that makes more sense for our city so that we are sustainable and create a beautiful place for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, public hearing. Number 1, conduct a public hearing on rezoning applications for one lot on 4.475 acres, more or less, and being located on 16011 East US Highway 290, Manor, Texas, from A agriculture to C3 heavy commercial. We have Mr. Carlos Alfonso. He's here for support. Mr. Jerry Ray Rogers, is that correct? All right, yeah. Jonathan, I don't want to mess your last name up. They are here for support on the public, on the number 1, Mr. Scott.
I'm distracted by the screens. So this property is pretty much to our eastern extent, pretty close over there towards Elgin. It is zoned agricultural because that is the default zoning after annexation. This property is annexed back in 2017. It's on the future land use map. This area is designated as commercial corridor, which C3 heavy commercial fits within. C3 heavy commercial is the city's most permissive zoning district. It's a mix of commercial and light industrial. And so with the area on the future land use map designated as commercial corridor, there is sort of a list of recommended uses that are removed, if you were so inclined, to have that discussion, to make it more of a commercial use and remove some of those industrial or more industrial uses as permitted when you send the recommendation to City Council. Yes, if you have any questions, or I don't know, Jonathan,
I'm sorry, I missed that. Mr. Jonathan is here to speak on it, but the other gentlemen are here in support of it. So Mr. Jonathan, just state your name. Thank you.
Yes. Alrighty. Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commissioners. My name is Jonathan Sosby, and I'm with Kimley Horn. I'm a planner, and I have Jeremy Rogers, who is with the civil engineering team, and then Carlos Alfonso, who's with the developer. Alrighty. And here's just a close zoomed in image of the site. We're right along 290, as Scott mentioned, on the eastern side. If you go to the next slide.
Scott, this gentleman is doing the presentation. Is that correct? Okay.
There we go. And so here's a zoomed out image. That little red dot is where we're at tonight, and the yellow star is the approximate location of the site. There we go. And we are existing zoning as agricultural. As Scott said, that's the zoning that the site got when it was annexed. And we are requesting the C3 heavy commercial zoning. And as the code states in section 14.02.015, the heavy commercial uses should have direct frontage along major highways, and obviously the site being situated on 290 is perfect for that. And I have the future land use map here. We're dead center in all the red there, which is the commercial corridor, which states that this category should consist of non-residential land uses to meet the needs of both local and regional residents. And we believe a C3 use or C3 zoning here would obviously meet that intent, being able to serve people locally as well as maybe draw in some more regional folks as well. And so a little bit about the proposed user of the site. We have, there we go, the National Equipment Dealers, or NED. They have 30 years of experience with construction equipment, sales and rental, and also customer support. This site would have approximately 20 to 30 employees, and it would offer different sorts of construction equipment rental, as well as sales of that equipment, and then also parts and customer support. So if they were to buy a piece of equipment from the store, they could come here and get it fixed if they needed to, if it for some reason, broke or they needed assistance with that. And then we have a rendering of the site. This is not the exact look of the building, but it'll be, similar in style, as we haven't got the architect quite on board yet. But this would be what you would see fronting 290. So this would be, as you're driving along, this is what the front would look like. And then the side of it there, so this would be facing either like east or west, because the site is so narrow. This is what you would see on the side of it. And that is it. We're here for any questions, as well as the gentleman back here that can answer some as well. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for making it super clear exactly where this property is and what it is supposed to be in the plan, and how it aligns with like employees and what the vision is. So appreciate that. Are there going to be any storing of or like processing of any chemicals or hazardous materials? I see it is right next to an office space. I was just curious if there's going to be anything hazardous on your site that might, permeate into the neighboring land.
For sure. Good question. Yeah, there won't be any sort of hazardous materials. This is just primarily construction equipment. There might be like storage indoors for just like oil, to kind of maintain some of the equipment, but that would really be it. And that would be indoors, of course.
Okay, thanks.
So you've applied for C3, the most permissive use of all the uses, when under the plan that you have, you could seek light industrial or heavy industrial that would allow the exact same businesses to be there, why go for the C3 heavy commercial when those other two less permissive uses would also suffice?
We'd just like to have the commercial zoning there just so there's, greater options, further down the road, say, 30 years from now, NED doesn't want to be there. It just provides different options for, a place of business to go there being on 290. Obviously, you would likely want more of your commercial uses placed along the highway. And so that's why we want the C3 zoning, just for it provides more flexibility for potential users down the road.
No, I get that, forward looking, but they could also come back to the city council at some point in the future and seek more permissive uses in the future versus, I mean, the C3 allows, from what I'm seeing, like a huge adult-oriented businesses, data centers, all kinds of other things that are not even in the realm of what they're trying to do. Why not? Would they agree to something less permissive at this time, and then if they want to do that in the future, come back to the city council and the planning and zoning and seek that more permissive use in the future?
We would certainly be open to striking some of the uses in C3, like adult-oriented businesses. Scott, would we be able to downgrade to, is it considered downgrading to industrial, or would we have to renotice?
No, that would renotice. And so light industrial actually permits all of these same uses. C3 is the most permissive in the sense that it allows the most types of uses of any zoning category, because our zoning isn't, it doesn't build on one another kind of thing. And so C3 is a mix of C2 and light industrial. And so it just has the most amount of allowable uses within it and the fewest like specific use permits. And so if you were to go to, light industrial, that actually maybe not necessarily would follow what the comp plan has for commercial corridor, and it would allow what they wanted to do. But as Jonathan mentioned, if someone in the future wanted to do retail or restaurant, they may not be able to if it was zoned industrial. And then also our development standards for industrial are different than they are for C3, because C3 is still a commercial designation. So with the setbacks and sort of landscaping buffers and the amount of outdoor storage to some extent. But once you get into industrial, you can start having like unrestricted outdoor storage, chain link fences, and it may not necessarily follow what the rest of the area develops as.
I get you. I'm just looking at in the most permissive use versus what they want to do right now versus having to come back to just have a little more, I guess, oversight in the future versus just kind of opening the doors to everything without any city or P&Z involvement in the future. That's all.
Yeah.
To build on that, would their use that they're using it for be allowable under C2?
No, it wouldn't.
But we could, strike out some of the uses of C3 to make it more narrow for this.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And part of your backup on page 17 of your backup on this item is the list of all the allowable uses within C3. And so I pulled out the ones that I felt were, the more industrial ones that didn't necessarily fit with the comprehensive plan and, that area being commercial corridor, but you can always modify and add to that and strike out what you like. But they fall under the construction and equipment sales major. So if you were to strike that one, they wouldn't be allowed. And at that point, you'd probably just be looking at C2.
But IN1 and IN2 would allow them to do exactly what they want to do?
Yes. And it would also include some additional uses that may not be necessarily allowed in C3 that are squarely within the industrial realm. Once you get into heavy industrial too, that's like resource extraction, and that's usually.
If we
Very
did
specific.
that, would it allow for, like, because I know you said that setbacks wouldn't be required. There would be some, they would have less responsibility to provide like commercial storage and things like that. And then potentially if there was hazardous materials, the industrial uses could more likely allow for those than a commercial use.
Correct. Yeah. One of the main distinction between light and heavy industrial is heavy industrial permits hazardous materials, flammable materials, explosive. So there's care that has to go into where that could be zoned. But light industrial is usually just general manufacturing without hazardous materials, distribution, warehousing.
So, and we just make recommendations to get information for the city council. So if changing it to IN1 or IN2, does the applicant have to start the whole process over, or can they just change it? You know, we're not trying to make it more burdensome because it fits in the comprehensive plan, but also being able to have some say on the other types of things that might go there in the future 20 or 30 years down the road.
They would have to reapply because you can't zone higher than what's requested. So you can always go lower. So you could do C2, C1, general office, neighborhood business, which would be not recommended. That's our most restrictive commercial category. But you can't go higher. So higher than C3 really is just light industrial and heavy industrial.
Yeah, and I'll add just based off the comprehensive plan, the future land use, obviously it's kind of contemplated more for commercial along this corridor versus employment, which would be sort of, more those office districts or the industrial. Because especially when you're looking at 290, you're going to want to try and pull off the users, from the road and, and generate sales tax, things like that, and sales. So it's obviously a little bit easier when it's zoned commercial right along the highway. So that's really another sort of intent of doing the C3 as well.
Commissioners, do we have any more questions? Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to close?
I move to close agenda item number 1.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Chavis, a second by Commissioner Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, conduct a public hearing on the subdivision of a specific use permit up to 3,860 square feet of medical office and medical clinic in Manor Crossing Block A, Lot 7, being 1 acre more or less and located at the northwest intersection of FM 973 and US Highway 290, Manor, Texas. We do have Buck Copy. He is here for any questions that the commissioners have. Mr. Scott.
Sure. So, as I said, this property is over in Manor Crossing. Y'all may recall very recently we did a medical use, specific use permit over there. That was specific to the retail connections area, so the multi-tenant, where if you can imagine, it's like where like the Burlington, TJ Maxx, and all that's planned to go. This one is for a separate lot within the same development. They're planning a 2-tenant space building, and one of the spaces they would like to have for a medical office, medical clinic. I believe it'll be a dental clinic. And so that's what this request is for. So it's 3,860 square feet of the building. The restaurant side of it is 2,408 square feet. So within this property, the medical use would represent 61% of the building. But overall, for the entire Manor Crossing development, it's projected to be just under 426,000 square feet. So this property alone would represent just under 1% of the entire development. And if you include the 7,500 square feet of medical that was approved for retail connections that city council approved, that represents 2.67% of the entire development. And within the comprehensive plan, this area is designated as commercial mixed use, which has a target of 50-50 residential, non-residential. And so this area does include sort of the view at Maynard, those 600 apartments. So the area does include some residential uses. And within that 50% of non-residential, it suggests that 50% is retail, but 40% is office. And so allowing a certain medical office within this does align with the comprehensive plan and what the vision is within that plan. And again, it still represents just a few percentage points of the overall development. Yes, if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Is Maynard Crossing the new street that was just been added, right?
Yes, so there's Maynard Crossing Boulevard and then Maynard Commerce Boulevard. But yes, it's unopened right now. They're working on those TxDOT improvements and the tie-ins to 290. So right now you can't really access Maynard Crossing Boulevard, but it's in.
It would alleviate some of that headache on 973 right now. But just state your name for us.
My name is Buck Cody from Endeavor.
All right. I do have a question, Mr. Buck. I do see that we have here that it's we're wanting to put a dental in there and a Chipotle development in there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I mean, I'm assuming that normally that's what's being done is these spaces are being occupied by two tenants, or is that what we're looking at?
I don't exactly understand the question.
So we're splitting this up between a restaurant and a health event. Is that?
Yes, sir. That's correct. The plan, as you see there, contemplates a single building that would be a 2-tenant building, and it would be Chipotle with the Chipotle lane or pickup lane there on the west side, and then a dental clinic there in the medical office space.
If we could change that to a Cane's, all in.
I think
my
Chipotle's,
wife and the kid love Cane's. Just throwing it out there.
Well, hopefully they like Chipotle also. Chipotle is very excited about the prospect of being in Maynard.
The wife loves Chipotle. The kid's not so. Yeah.
Well, happy wife, happy life is how it works at my house.
I hate to say with you, Commissioner Terry, my wife saw that on the agenda and was like, yeah, Chipotle.
Me too. I like Chipotle too.
So all of this fits within the comprehensive plan and is not really in any variance with anything else other than some percentage points?
Yeah, as the comprehensive plan is laid out, it would meet the intent of it. Again, the plan says, yeah, there you go. Those sort of metrics there over on the right, that circle where it has 50% retail, 40% office, 10% other, which is civic, parks kind of thing. That's the recommended breakdown for uses within commercial mixed-use areas, and that this falls under. Their zoning is C2, which is why the specific use is required, because medical office and office in general within C2 requires a specific use permit.
I had a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
First, is it going to be a dentist for adults? Because I know right now we have like Maynard Kid Dentist, but and maybe there's like one other one, but we don't really have like an adult. So will this be serving adults?
My understanding is it would be serving everybody, but yes, it would be serving adults. It's certainly not a pediatric dentistry. It's
okay.
It's a,
because I need a dentist. Yeah. So just I drive all the way to Round Rock. So then also, sometimes the dentist will have like specialists there too. Will it just be like a general dentist, or will it be like an endo, perio? Like, will it be a comprehensive? Because that's a lot of space for just like a dentist. Would it be potentially specialists as well?
I do not know the answer to that.
Hopefully so, because like root canals, you know,
Well,
got to drive 30 minutes. Yeah, that was fun.
All right, Commissioners, do we have any more questions? All right, Mr. Buck, thank you for,
yeah, thank you all for your consideration and time.
all right, Commissioners, can I get a motion?
I move to close agenda item number 2.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Julie, a second by Commissioner Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing number 3, conduct a public hearing on subdivision construction variance for the New Haven subdivision for Manor Code of Ordinance, Chapter 10, Exhibit A, Article 3, Section 42B1 to permit and modify street pavement details and being located at the northwest intersection of FM 973 and Greg Lane, Maynard, Texas. We do have Brad Carrera that is here for any questions. Travis, I'm not going to mess up your last name for you. He is also here for, if he doesn't wish to speak, but if we have any questions, Ms. Yvonne Garcia Thomas is here for any questions, and Mr. for Gritty, or I think it's Jolton, is that correct? There you go, sir. Sorry about that. Is also here to, if we have any questions. All right, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So under our subdivision code, if there's any variances to the city's design standards, it comes before the planning commission for approval. So this is part of their process for approval on their construction plans. So we're just reviewing specifically the variance today, not the entire construction plan. That would be an administrative process. But with this variance, it does require your approval. The city's minimum street paving detail is 2 inches of asphalt, 12 inches of flexible base, and 6 inches of subgrade prep. They put together with their geotech 2 options, and our city engineer, who is here also to discuss it, because I will kick this over to engineering because it's not necessarily my world. Our engineering reviewed this, and they proposed option 2 with modifications. And so there's 2 different street types within the development. There's their standard residential streets and then the main collector street. And the main collector street is the higher traffic road. You can see the big one running north-south there. And so that has a thicker pavement cross section. And so what the engineers did, so they are recommending option 2 with some modifications to have geogrid required for both street types, to have the subgrade thickness of at least 16 inches. And then there's a discussion of whether the subgrade stabilization should be cement or lime. They're proposing lime stabilized subgrade. Our engineer said cement might be a little better, but both perform. But yes, if you have questions, I'm going to again say engineers may be the best to direct those questions to.
Commissioners, we have any questions? Can you get a motion to close public hearing number 3? Or you got a question, Mr.?
Maybe Pauline could come and explain kind of what's the reasoning behind the recommendation.
In real simple terms, please. Like sixth grade.
So, Pauline Gray, GBA,
Third.
city engineer. So we reviewed it, not to get too technical, but there's certain requirements when you work the road and stuff that Austin requires. Manor follows Austin's code. They're unable to meet it based on out there. Yvonne could probably explain it a little bit better because I'm not a geotech, but basically what it is, they couldn't meet what was required by the Austin requirements. And so they submitted some options for us to review. And basically, we reviewed it and, there was option 1 and 2. We said 2 would be the best one. And basically it's gonna make it a sturdier road. And so, basically, it should hold up better. I mean, you see the streets out here. It's not the best soils, and so that's what the issue was. That the soil, they're having issues being able to meet the certain requirements by Austin for the PVR. And I would let somebody else explain that because, like I said, that's not my thing. We just look at to see if it meets the requirements. And so basically, we reviewed what they were proposing, and we had our transportation people look at it. And so the variance, they're just wanting to do a different one than what Manor required. And so when we reviewed it, and with the our recommendations, it'll give the city a sturdier paved road that should last longer and hopefully not have some of the issues that we do have. And so, so you put the GeoGrid in there for both of them. There's certain subgrade, and what you do when you do this, the subgrade, you go down and you treat it. Option 1 wasn't viable because you're talking about going down 48 inches and filling in 35 inches. You don't really want to do that. So that's why we said option 2, because with the flex base, or if they use cement stabilized for the subgrade, then what that'll do is it'll give you a sturdier road section.
So I'm curious, all of the other developments have to meet the same standards, Manor has from Austin.
Right.
Why is this one property not able to meet it when all of the others are?
It just has to do with the soil that's located on their site.
Maybe they can explain it. I'm just curious because we haven't ever had one of these ever since I've been on the committee.
My name is Travis Janik. I'm with the developer. I'm not an engineer, so I can maybe sum it up in a non-engineering way for you. Like Pauline mentioned, we would have had to do some pretty heavy-duty excavation and improvements to the site in order to accomplish or in order to follow your code perfectly. But we got with our geotechnical engineer and found a way to design the same road that meet the same end result specs for a little less economic way. It still meets the same PVR, so it'll stay put. Just like your code does. But I think the code that you'll follows City of Austin, and it's robust. So in layman's terms, it's a slightly more economical way to build something just as good, if not better.
And you may not know, but I know that recently Lexington Street had to be repaved, and I drive that road all the time, and it was bumpy, and there were holes, and car was turning and all that kind of stuff. At what point, or who's going to be responsible for making sure that this particular street or set of roads is maintained and stuff? At what point does the city take over, or is the developer responsible? Do you know?
So once the roads are completed, we do a walkthrough, and when everything's and we accept it for the city, there's a 2-year warranty period where city staff will go out there at the 1 and 2 year and inspect it, and the contractor and the developer are required to fix any issues that come up in those 2 years. After the 2 years, it's city maintains it. So yeah, it would be this city streets department would maintain it after 2 years.
So knowing where you're about to put these roads at and being here, like, you know, Paulina said, some of us have been here for a little bit. The geographic of that, I mean, that ground has only done one thing, and that's been farmed for God knows how many years. Is that one of the issues that you guys are running into because it's been turned over and turned over and turned over multiple times? Oh.
I'm not an expert at the specifics of what happens to dirt over time in a farm, but
Yeah.
I know the end result is the same. We have to build a road that meets certain stiffness and has certain specs at the end that, you know, we'll be testing the whole time during construction. It'll be approved. We've had a lot of back and forths with the city engineer and our geotech, and
Right.
you know, we feel like we're still providing the same, if not better, product just for a more slightly economic price.
So then basically it is possible for you to use the normal, like what we require from the state of Austin. So it's not impossible. It just would cost you more money to follow our specs. Because I guess my understanding was it wasn't possible, but now it sounds like it is possible. It's just more money. Is that true?
Do you have the answer? That's why you ran up
I
here.
want to give some historical background.
Just state your name and tell us.
Yvonne Thomas. I'm a geotechnical engineer in my background, and I study soils. I'm an I would be called a soils engineer. So basically, in July of 2022, the city of Austin adopted a new transportation criteria manual, and in that manual, it set limits to where certain type of roadway classifications had to meet now limitations in PVR, which is how much it can move vertically. Typically, historically, streets were never designed to have a limit in PVR. Now, it's being introduced. So what you're seeing is a situation where we've adopted some parameters that are not necessarily applicable to these kind of soil conditions, but they're being applied to these soil conditions. So, because I've been in the industry for 20 years, been designing roadways and pavements. Historically, none of this was done. So what we are providing is a section that we feel that we know, and we've designed roadways all over in Taylor. I work predominantly on the outskirts of town, but I do a lot of work in the city of Austin, but these are typical sections of what we would see in these areas that have similar soil conditions. So that's what we're providing to the team, which is way better than what was historically done, and also better than what the previous standards were. But it doesn't, to make a long story short, we did what we needed to do to achieve what the city of Austin limits were requiring. And it's going from here to here. You know, it's a huge gap, a huge change and difference. So what we did was we took a step back. We said, hey, nobody does this. Nobody builds TxDOT doesn't build roadways like this. Why are we trying to do this for a local residential street? Okay, let's be smart about this. Let's understand what we're dealing with. Let's introduce GeoGrid. Let's introduce lime to the soils to control the water infiltration, what's going to help. And let's give them a good pavement section that's going to last longer and better than what has historically been seen. So that's basically what we did.
So I have a couple questions about that. So obviously the law was passed for a reason, you know, and Texas historically is a pretty business friendly state. And so they don't have super high EPA like regulations. We're not an overly regulated state. So for them to have passed something that is, I guess, regulating the roads or like making requirements of people who fund the roads that are more robust. My gut instinct is like, you know, I would say that these are probably the minimum road standards in the country, just because Texas doesn't ever go over and above legislatively for anything. So I would be curious, you know, it sounds like you can do it, like, right? So it could be done. It's just more money, right?
Just step to the microphone,
What
please.
we're missing out with all of this is, yes, there's standards being set, but there's conditions that exist in our environment that are not atypical for the standards that they were designed for. And this is one of them. And I've worked in Central Texas for the last 20 years. We've designed roadways on expansive clay soils. I did Breaker Lane. I've done Pflugerville Parkway, several streets in Taylor. I'm currently working with the city of Taylor on different streets as well, because they have really bad pavements there. And what we're seeing, and the reason why a lot of this stuff is bad, is because historically none of this stuff was done. So we're going from one extreme to another. And although those limits are great, they're great. When I started off as a young engineer, we would design, and we were very conservative. So that's how I'm used to designing for that. Now they're trying to implement that, but you know, you have to introduce it gradually, right? Introduce that. You can't go from one extreme to the other and put in, like right now, I bet your section for this roadway is like 2 inches of asphalt over potentially 8 inches of flex space and no modifications. Now we're being instructed to build a 36-inch section. What we're giving you is even beefier than that. So I don't want to dismiss, yes, we can go through the channels and say this is what you need, but realistically, it's not feasible to modify a 6-foot section just to put in a roadway to meet a criteria, if that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, because I grew up in Fredericksburg, and to build a corner fence post hole took, like, to dig a fence post hole in Fredericksburg took like all day and dynamite. But my ranch is in Lexington, and I can dig that same hole in like 20 minutes. So the soil's different in Austin than it is here. I totally get that. My only concern, I think, on behalf of the city is that with a 2-year warranty, that we're cutting some potential standards, and then the city's going to be responsible for going and fixing this stuff 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road. I think that's kind of what the issue is, you know, if it's only 2 years and we're cutting the standards, then the city's going to be having to come in and fix it.
So just for some education, pavements are only designed for a 20-year design life. And so in order to keep them, you have to maintain them. And it's understood that you have to provide some level of maintenance. So I'm a big proponent of speaking with cities and talking about maintenance programs. And there's several engineers locally that you can hire that can develop a maintenance program for you. And so once you build it and you have a base level, you can have essentially a program. I know City of Pflugerville does this. If you drive any of their roadways, you can see where they went in and they started doing some patchwork to preserve, you know, and then that prolongs. Because what happens, especially in these soils, is as soon as the asphalt starts to open and water starts to enter, that's where you start having the problems, right? And you start seeing on the edge, the shoulder edge, where it starts moving apart. So we're trying to protect all that, right? We're trying to, we've worked with the design team to provide a good section that's going to have good curbs and do all of this. So it's a lot. You have to think of it holistically. And so I personally, you know, money is better invested in a maintenance program than putting in a 6 or 4 foot, 48-inch pavement section that in these soil conditions is still going to probably move because of how they are. So your money is better spent there. That's what I would say personally. That's just my personal opinion.
Totally understand that. Out of my ranch in Lexington, I had to go and put in piers and all kinds of stuff because the slab was moving, and they told me, oh, it's sandy loam. That's just what it does. And I get that. It's just with only 2 years for the developer, then all that maintenance then gets shifted to the city. The developer has come in, they've built the road, and then they move on, and now all of a sudden everybody else in Manor is in charge of the maintenance after 2 years?
And I just want to clarify, we're not lowering the specs. We're just using a different path to get to the same spec versus going, what is it, 4 foot deep and treating the whole thing. We're introducing GeoGrid and not having to go as deep. But the end result, the science behind the PBRs and the final product of the pavement is the same as the standards that you have now. Okay, the same or more, and if you'd have the same maintenance issues, you'd probably have more maintenance issues if we did it just the regular way. So
okay,
we're not
I
trying to
totally
build
get it.
a,
I'm not trying to make it like much more complicated. I'm just a lawyer. I just look at things that way. So I'm not an engineer. Thank you for the explanation. I'm just looking at it from economically, from where it shifts from y'all to the city, because I think the city's probably interested in that.
I'm curious if it is higher standards, why we aren't seeing more of these, or, will we, if by doing this or accepting this, do we then open ourselves up to like precedent and other people coming in and wanting to do the same thing? It just, maybe you guys are super inventive and you've come up with a great new idea. This is totally new for us to entertain things like this. And if it's the state, setting regulations, we are following the city of Austin. We already have challenges with our roads that, if we start to do things that, God forbid, it turns up in 5 years, it wasn't a higher quality, or, no offense, we take your word for it, but you never know, these things until it kind of pans out. The risk is a little high in terms of, does this end up, creating a snowball effect?
I think I have to piggyback on Commissioner Leonard. Being in this town for 43 years, you're telling me in 20 years it's going to change. I've seen this road change.
No, it's not 20. I said they're designed for 20 years, but they're not, if they're not properly maintained and they're not properly built correctly with the right standards, the right materials, and the right protection, the curb and gutters that these guys are putting in their design, the proper drainage, all of that all impacts how pavement behaves. It's not designed accordingly. I mean, there's a lot of the reason, I'll be very honest with you, a lot of the pavement failures are what you're seeing is a result of lack of shoulder support and things like that in some of these streets.
But I've also lived here long enough to know this black clay dirt is going to move, and like my commissioner Terry said, you giving us a 2-year warranty. I've lived in the house for 6 months. It's already moved. So you're telling me that I don't. Exactly.
It's not going to move where we provided.
My thing is, we're gonna give it to the city, and what now it's our turn to take the equipment that you have and the stuff that you guys have to make it perfect. I don't think the city of Manor owns equipment like that, do they, Scott?
No, we at this time we contract out the majority of our street repairs. We do a little bit, but the majority of it's contracted. So we do have a pavement management program now where our engineers drive the streets every year with cameras that can figure out the condition of a roadway, and then that informs the maintenance plan for that fiscal year.
And the city engineer.
Sorry, can you use the microphone?
That would help the city engineers determine what needs to get fixed, imminently, and then they would move forward with that. That alone, that is part of the
maintenance that you would do. So once this is built, they can have a base point, and then they can go back and they can, you know, hire someone like me to do FWD testing, so we can see what the modulus of the subgrade is and decide whether we could just go in and mill and just take off the asphalt and re-level the asphalt, as opposed to just putting in a new section. Because my thought is y'all probably go out and have to put in new sections all the time. Well, this section will allow you to put that in, has good thick flex space, and then have future options to just potentially mill and overlay, and then you're protecting the. So she talked about lime and cement. I'm a proponent of lime and expansive clay soils, so that serves as a water moisture barrier. So when water starts entering from the top, that lime should help be a solid. I mean, it's hard. Like once it sets, it's really hard, and it helps penetrate water. The reason why your soils are moving, your houses are moving, it's because water's getting into the soils. The soils are absorbing the water. So that barrier will protect it. And then you have a layer of geogrid, you have your thick flex base section, and then your asphalt. So it's a better section in terms of future improvements and potentially less maintenance. I won't ever say every road is going to need to be rehabbed. They're not designed to last forever. They're designed to last maybe 20 years, and that's assuming it's kept appropriately.
So if we subcontracted this work out, does the fact that it's different materials that are, you know, it's one section of a larger road, right? So we have to say, okay, hey, fix this. You're going to use these materials for this section, but then there's a separate cost or like elevated cost that they would charge us to upkeep this other section with different materials.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, the collector road as it goes north, I mean, KB Homes, which the topography on this property is a lot more than most other properties.
Yes.
Like the majority of it actually is just trees. It's not really been farmed because it starts sloping into the creek there. So it's not perfectly flat land. So up at just north of the senior high school, you get to KB Homes. That's pretty flat there. And so they're building our standard street section. So there will be an area like they'll have to merge the two street sections and figure out how that works. But yeah, theoretically, if 20 years online, if we have to do a full depth repair, you know, maybe, hey, we're going to keep the same cross section, and then the contract at the time, maybe in 20 years, the city is capable of doing our own streets, hopefully. It could be a higher cost if we wanted to, you know, do the same base, or maybe not. Maybe it would be cheaper. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we can't speak what's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, if the city starts doing maintenance on some of the roads, we won't have to do some of the work that we're currently doing right now. If these roads, once they take over, if the city does implement a maintenance plan and you go in there and there's certain things you can do so it would probably end up, if we had to do anything, would probably just be a mill and overlay if we can maintain the roads correctly. So the mill and overlay is what they did on Lexington and Shadow Glen Boulevard, where they just scrape off part of it, and that's about a third the cost of doing the full depth repair. And so the main thing is for not just this one, but any of the subdivisions is going to be maintenance. And that's what the city has struggled with, is maintaining the roads. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse because last year we added 16 miles of additional roads for the city to maintain and stuff with all the new subdivisions, you know, and that's not even counting all this stuff. And so, but yeah, if it's properly maintained, and we do have that pavement management program, and we do recommend doing maintenance on certain like subdivisions and stuff. Sometimes city staff listens to us, and sometimes the plans get modified. So we have no control over that because we take our directions from the city. But yeah, so like I said, we looked at it, and if you know we were going to do it, we would definitely go with option number 2. because digging down as far as option one, you can run into a lot more issues, and that would be even worse for the city to have to come back in the future and fix that section. And
So-
that's why we recommended option two.
So given that the city has recommended option 2, and I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this, can the maintenance period for the developer be extended if city council wants to approve this variance?
This variance wouldn't go to city council. Within our code, design standard modifications are just through planning commission. So this is your decision tonight. And yes, I mean the design standards are in the same, maintenance is within the subdivision code, and that's where these design standards are as well. And so for the maintenance period, this plan said it's 2 years, but it's split. So we have a 1-year maintenance period where it's covered at 100%, and then the second year it's at 10%. So should anything happen and we have to call on those warranty, maintenance and warranty bonds, the first year it's 100% covered, the second year it's only 10%. And so if you were inclined to maybe want to extend that, we'd have to discuss, is it the 1 year, the 100% maintenance bond that's being extended, or is it that 10% maintenance bond that's being extended, or is it a combination of the two, or it's just not just one bond, it's 2 separate bonds.
What's the maximum that the developer would be responsible for the maintenance at 100%?
The first year.
Right.
But with any kind of variance on our part.
With variances, you have the discretion to increase that. I don't know if that's like 5 years or what's necessarily reasonable. You can have a conversation, with the developer of what they can support, and consider that. I don't know if you would want to necessarily say for the life of the road. That's sort of a long time, but
I can say that once the roads are in and they start building houses, the city inspector is out there on a regular basis. So in other subdivisions, we have had where we don't wait the full year. If there's an issue, we let them know immediately to get it addressed. So it's not like a set thing where it's like, okay, we have to wait the whole year. If we see something and there's an issue, it can be corrected before the year is up too. Like I said, I don't know. I guess that's up to y'all if y'all want to extend that 100% warranty to a longer period.
Yeah. How long would the developer be willing to extend the warranty?
I know on a subdivision like this, like if we had like a mud district or something, I know a lot of counties are, having the mud districts, pitch in to maintain the roads because there's a municipality that is created over the site that can handle things like that. We don't have that on this one, so we would, and a lot of what happens is the contractor pulls the bond for it. So whoever we have, bidding or constructing each section, so it's going to be at the end of this you're going to have 4 different bonds 1 year and then 4 different 2-year 10% bonds because we have 4 sections, so it can get pretty complicated. And we're talking about maintenance here. The maintenance is going to be the same for either one of these options, except when Pauline made a good point on option 1, which is what we would have to do if you did not approve this. If you had to do a full repair of like the collector road, y'all would have to dig down 6 feet. That's how deep the base goes. Whereas our option provides the same specs, and doesn't go as deep because we're introducing lime and geogrid. I would have to talk with my team internally before, actually giving you an answer on that question. But I would say it's not typical. The maintenance is going to happen either way, especially like you said, I'm not from here, but driving around, you can see what soils do to these roads. That's going to happen, really no matter what. So, like, I just want to reiterate that, we're providing the same spec that the current roads, how you currently do things does, but with a much, better way of doing it.
Well, I get that, but it also saves y'all money if y'all will come back and extend the maintenance period to where you cover more of it over a longer period of time. I think it'll be easier to get it passed through the P&Z commission. I mean, versus just 1 year and then y'all have it. We want a variance, but after 1 year, y'all are in charge of it. Y'all cover some more of it, and then maybe it works out easier.
Is there a third option, which is just to do it based on how Austin, like, neither of these option 1 or 2 are Austin requirements, state requirements. Or there's actually a third option. Is that true?
Is option 1 is y'all's? Or were these y'all's 2 options? The 48.
I think option 1 was to meet the PVR requirements for Austin. So that is based on the new Austin requirements.
Okay. So there really are just 2 options. There's the requirement, and then there's the variant, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask a couple questions if possible? I get what you're trying to do here when it comes to the lime and all that stuff and the whole purpose because of the soil. Are you doing this anywhere else?
We do the. I've never of all the projects I've done, I've never excavated 6 feet to build a road. So
that's fine. I'm just asking for option 2. Have you done? Has this been done since this is on farmland?
Yeah.
Has this been done elsewhere
And
and
we
somewhere
actually-
that's nearby?
Yeah, we actually just completed a section in Elgin, right at County Line Road and 290, so not far from here, where our collector road and our residential streets had the geogrid, had the lime stabilization. So, to my knowledge, it's typical, and it's possible.
How thick is the geogrid, if I may ask?
It's almost like a blanket that wraps the subgrade, so it's it comes in a roll, and it lets water go through, right?
Yeah, and the only reason I was asking because when we're looking at measurements, we're looking at numbers,
so
and it doesn't have anything on there.
It's thin. It's like a sheet that wraps, and it's the point of it is as you drive on it and things get pushed to the side and the road goes down, the geogrid locks in the base and keeps it in one place. That way, that spreading out that you see everywhere is minimized.
And this process, how long has it been done? And the only reason I'm asking is because we're talking about warranties, and we're talking about where else have we? We're like at a timeline.
You can stand to the podium. Excuse me. You can get to the podium. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say their GeoGrid has been used in Manor before. If you look over at Ring Drive over there by Manor Village at Manor Commons, when that storm sewer shifted and the road sank, the GeoGrid was the only thing holding up the road. So it's sturdy and it does what it's supposed to do. So and it's in several other subdivisions. So yeah, GeoGrid's used for it. That's nothing new. You can see that in most of the geotech reports that people submit that is one of the options.
Is that the area on Ring? So I live on Ring. Is that the area on Ring between the Bell Farm subdivision and the new subdivision?
Yeah, there was right before that intersection, the road kind of sank in and they had that metal plate there. Yeah, so what it was, water got in there because the storm sewer pipe wasn't connected properly. And when we dug it up to look at it, literally the GeoGrid was holding the road base in place, holding the road up. So like that, at first hand, I saw that it worked. And that's why we don't have an issue. It's actually better, especially with the soils and stuff, to use the GeoGrid out here because it will hold it in place when the road shifts.
Okay.
So going back to the other question, I get the idea of this part, and there's one that was recently done in Elgin. Has this been done in the past? And if so, because we're talking about warranties, has this been done in the past, maybe 2-3 years? This type of process.
Yes, I believe it has.
Okay, because if so, where? And the only reason why I'm saying this is that if we're talking about if the idea of the subject is coming up about warranty and we're saying, okay, you want to extend it, where else has it been done so that we can say, okay, it's been done within the past 3 years and everything's been stable, so that it kind of gives, I guess, peace of mind with some of the commissioners here, so that they can say, okay, yeah, there's history behind it and there's proven fact that it's worked.
So I'm the geotech engineer that worked on Pflugerville packages 1 and 2, and these are residential streets, and we recommended GeoGrid in those, and where there was different areas of town, because Pflugerville, as you're closer to 35, it's rock, but as you go further east near 130, you start getting into the expansive clays, and a lot of those subdivisions, that's kind of the area we were working with, and they just finished construction of package 1, and they just started package 2, and we recommended it there. I honestly, anywhere, Hutto, we work for City of Hutto, City of Taylor, City of Pflugerville, these are all on the east side, Manor, Elgin, Del Valle, that area, all the way down to Buda and Kyle.
When was the earliest one that was done? And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that if you said the one in Pflugerville was just recently done or recently completed, package 1, when was package 1 completed?
Either, I want to say earlier this year or late last fall.
Okay, has there been anything nearby around that's been older than that?
Yeah.
Can you expand on where?
I mean, package 1 was just selected street. So what they did, City of Pflugerville, they did exactly kind of similar. They had a program, program where they had certain streets where they wanted to rebuild or reconstruct. It was a reconstruction project, really. It wasn't a redo, it was a reconstruction. And they identified through this program that she was talking about what streets were, because basically that gave some numbers that kind of gave us an idea of how well it was, how well the payments were performing. So the city decided, okay, these streets are performing very poorly, they look really bad, we want to fix those streets, and they targeted those streets. So it was several streets scattered throughout Pflugerville that we targeted, and we went, and each street, we walked the street and we determined, okay, how is it behaving? What is it doing? How is it moving? With that understanding and knowing the soil characteristics, we gave our recommendations on what we thought it should be.
And I completely understand that part, but it was packet 1 that was just recently done.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this, I guess around the beginning of this year, correct?
I believe they finished construction at the beginning of this year. Yes.
Okay, so I go back to the original question: has there been anything else done recently, or within the past maybe 2 years, that this has been done? This type of process. Well, not necessarily City of Manor. I'm talking about, like, I asked if there's other places, and you said you gave me cities, but when were they done?
I don't design every street, sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I don't know.
so this recommendation that has been done, where else has it been done prior to 2 years, from prior to 2022?
And I think that's a hard question because it's
That's a very valid question, but I would have to have construction plan knowledge of all projects done in Austin.
What about your projects?
Well, like I said, we just got into the Austin market, and we did just complete our first section May this year, and in that Elgin one I was talking about. So we do have section 2 going for that one. We have this one kicking off. We have another one in that doesn't really relate to this, because you go at a certain point in Austin, you get to just rock, so you don't.
Right. No, I understand that part, and I understand the Austin environment on that part. What I'm trying, and I hope you understand where I'm trying to get at with this thing, is that
You like to see where it's worked.
yes, or at least identify certain parts where we can say, oh yeah, we know that this works, because you've got board members here that are saying we want, if we're going to be doing this, we want an extension on the warranty. They want to have the argument of that part. I'm trying to see to help. I'm not saying I'm trying to help, but what I'm trying to get more information to help ease the concerns of the commissioners here is that if it's being done elsewhere and it's been done within the past more than 6 months ago, then we can just say, yeah, okay, great, this looks like it's going to work. Then beautiful. Then let's go ahead and it can ease some of the concerns about moving forward or asking for any other changes based in addition to what you're asking for right now.
Okay. I mean, does the city engineer have you approved any recent projects with GeoGrid in them?
With GeoGrid, yes.
Maybe you have some.
But not the process that they're doing right now with the addition of adding the lime to add stability to the ground, add stability to the concrete, so that when the water goes down and you get erosion underneath there, that it doesn't shift the movement of the road. I get that whole part. That's the only thing I'm trying to get at, to make sure that it's being done elsewhere, so that we can just say it's not innovative. I'm not trying to say this is innovative here for us, which causes an experiment for the city, which will potentially cost us more money.
Right. What's being proposed here is different than anything else, but each site is different. You get a geotech report for each individual site, so no two are going to be the same. You could dig up, phase 1 and then phase 4, and the soils could be a little bit different. That's just how it is. So with what they're proposing for option 2, there's nothing like this currently in Manor, because they're coming in, they're one of the first ones to have to submit to meet the new Austin standard. So that's why we haven't run into this with other subdivisions, and so that's why we went, like I said, we went back and forth with them. I mean, so many emails and stuff. And then that's when we came up and we agreed that option 2 would be the best option. Because like I said, right now when we do the full depth repair, we go down about 18 to 20 inches. And you hit some very interesting stuff, especially on these existing roads. But yeah, we've never done anything where you would go down 4 to 6 feet. And so that's, to me, that's excessive, and you will definitely have more issues having to fix that than option 2 in the future if work needs to be done. And like I said, anything that gets proposed, it really has to do with maintenance is the main thing that, because like I said, we have the 2-year warranty period. We catch what we can and get it done. But after that, we need to make sure, you can crack seal and stuff just to seal to keep the water from getting in and whatnot. There are maintenance things that can be done. Like I said, the reason we recommended option 2 was just, like I said, we talked to it. We had our transportation folks that look at that, do highway sections for like Missouri DOT and Kansas and TxDOT, and they don't go down that deep for their major roads. And so, like I said, you could go down that deep, but when you're digging and you're filling up 35 inches is what they're showing there, that's a lot. And we felt like you would have bigger issues and more concerns if you had to do that than option 2.
All right, commissioners, we have any more questions? All right, thank you guys. Can I get a motion to close?
Move to close agenda item number 3.
Second.
I have a motion to close agenda item number 3 by Vice Chair Chavis, a second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving on, number 4. Conduct a public hearing on subdivision concept plan for Okra subdivision for 325 lots on 113.415 acres, more or less, and being located at the intersection of North FM 973 and Old Maynard Taylor Road, Maynard, Texas. I do have to, Miss Stewart. Yeah. Just state your name for us.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Stewart. My husband and I are homeowners in the Shadow Glen subdivision on Heartland Road. This subdivision, new subdivision, would be right on the back of our land. I have a couple of questions. First of all, who's the builder? Second of all, 325 units. Do they have their own HOA? Are they going to come to the Shadow Glen HOA? And also what they're going to do with the water supply? Since we now have various times during the year where we have brown water or no water, we're in mud one. So those are the questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. I'm assuming Mr. Larry Stewart.
Thank you. I'm the guilty party. I appreciate all of you being awake and making eye contact. When this meeting started, only 2 of you appeared to be awake and alert. So maybe we should have espresso before these meetings, because nobody wants to come here and talk to people that are asleep. I know these things can be testy and boring. My concern is about development. You can make all the faces you want to make, kid. We keep talking about development, commercial and residential, and our water suppliers can't provide quality water or quantity of water for those of us that are here. What's going on? There seems to be a disconnect between the developers and the water suppliers and the city. That's all I've got to say. I do not see any logic in authorizing increased development. And I'm a real estate agent. I'm not anti-development, believe me. But why allow 300 new homes when you can't provide water to those of us that are here? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Scott, I do have a question. Is the developer here?
Representative of them, yes. And she'll have a little presentation as well. Oh.
All right, Ms. Rachel.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Rachel Shanks. I'm the developer of the Okotrack. I just want to address y'all's comments real quick. So for water, we're in the city of Manor. I believe you guys are in Manville. So it's a different water supplier. You're in a mud district, but they have to buy their water from a water corporation, and that's Manville. So different water supplier. We're going to have our own HOA since you guys are in a mud. It's a little bit different. We're not combining neighborhoods. And our home builder is Perry Homes, which they did build in Shadow Glen.
But Ms. Rachel, you have to address us.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Trying to get their questions.
Yeah, I understand.
But I don't know their price point. They did build in Shadow Glen though, and then there's 325 lots, but it's 309 homes, 1 commercial lot, and then 15 landscaping and like parkland lots. So I think that was their questions. since it's just a concept plan and preliminary plot, I just put together so you guys can see the parkland. I know that's been an important topic for everybody, so just wanted to share what's in phase 1, what's in phase 2, and phase 3. Nope. Okay. So here's our track and a little bit of an overview. We are immediately adjacent to Shadow Glen, and we are also boundary of Monarch Ranch to the north of us. Our parkland really hasn't changed since you guys saw me to present on the PUD, and really our lotting count or lot sizes have not changed at all. We have kind of an internal parkland that connects to Monarch Ranch that will have a dog park, which will be in phase 2, and then our main parkland with playgrounds, sport court, grading of open space around the detention, pavilion, and restrooms is in phase 1. And here's just another exhibit of that. So, and then we have,
sorry.
Yeah, okay. And then we have trails kind of connecting, so you will be able to connect and go all the way up to Monarch Ranch, and then go down and go along the drainage easement in the back between us and Shadow Glen, and head up the regional trail system, which I believe goes all the way up to New Haven. So here is phase 1. This will be built with our 95 lots in phase 1. This has the 2 different age groups of playgrounds with shaded structures over them, pavilion, basketball court. The detention is not included in our parkland, but I still wanted to make it have an organic feel with landscaping. It will be graded as it could be used as an open play field, but again, wasn't included in our parkland. I just wanted to make it not be an eyesore for the neighborhood. And here's a couple examples. So the theme for Okra is farm. So I had a barn playscape drawn up. This is just a couple different options I'm still kind of working through, and I'm a few months off from ordering playground equipment anyway. But I just wanted to get a feel of kind of what I'm thinking for the track, a little tractor for kids to ride in. And then, I don't know, they had a pepper. I was thinking maybe an onion. But anyway, those are kind of the things I was looking at. This is the red square is phase 2. So that's the dog park. It's acre, fenced in. It'll have water fountains for the dogs. There will be a crosswalk that has flashing signs connecting from parkland of phase 1 to parkland of phase 2 for safety. We have parking, plenty of parking along in the main park for people to park and then walk across to the dog park. And then this is our additional parkland in the back off the regional trail. We will have some street parking. Since there's no houses, it'll kind of go in and provide at least 8 parallel parking spots. There'll be a bench, potentially a pavilion, and this is, again, in the back of the property along the regional trail system. Any questions?
Yes, thank you. I had a few questions. Okay, so my first question was, obviously a dog park is a really important thing to the community. I think all the surveys that we've done for like, what are we needing, different parks, so is there any way you can move that to phase 1?
We would have to, at this point, redo construction plans and continue extending the collector road. For construction projects, your phase 1 is already so heavy loaded. So there's the cost analysis of having so much infrastructure in your phase 1, and that would require us extending Silent Falls Parkway all the way up to Monarch Ranch to be able to have the dog park.
What is the timing for phase 1 too? Do you know that?
As long as they approve our construction plans. So we're in our second submittal, and just kind of depending on comments and clearing, and we're already working on bids, so we should be breaking ground kind of early fall, really late summer. And it's about a 9-month delivery date for homes.
I'm sorry, Metro. Scott, I do have a question. So I do hear a lot of the low water supply from Shadow Glen. I do understand, as Rachel said, it's 2 different water supplies, but what are we going to do to make sure that, I mean, I do see it, and we as a commissioner see it. We keep seeing this different color water that's coming out, and so what is it so that our already citizens that live here and then our new citizens that are coming, we're not going to get that water, you know, that might scare some people away.
Yeah. So there are a number of different water providers in the city. So there's the MUD, which they get their water from EPCOR. Yeah. So not necessarily Manville, though Manville gets their water from EPCOR. So everyone trades their water around. So yeah, the MUDs are supplied by EPCOR, and then there's Manville, and there's Aqua Water, which is the more rural one. We're building out towards them now, but there aren't a lot of subdivisions, really any, that have Aqua right now. And then there's the city's water, and the city, we get our water from EPCOR as well as our own pumps down by Gilbert Road down south. And so it's all groundwater, so we don't have any surface water, which comes with some discoloration because it's not treated. We're just taking from aquifers, so it doesn't need to be treated. So groundwater can have some coloration to it. But then also the amount of construction we have that'll stir up pipes and all that. And so our crews are on a hydrant flushing schedule as required by TCEQ to help maintain water clarity and quality. But in terms of our water supply, the city, we are just finalizing a water master plan, which been a year, 2 years, year. It's been a while. And so it's where the city's going to be acquiring additional water sources. And the Capital Impact Fee Advisory Committee, you may recall, not the last time, but I think the time before, there was discussion about additional water sources for the city. That's actually been coming back to you all as the Capital Improvements Committee, Advisory Committee. Once we get through the roadway impact fees, we're going to go back to water, wastewater, and a lot of it's going to be on water and the additional water sources. And through the water master plan, engaging hydro engineers to explore aquifers that are out east. I believe it's the Trinity that we have existing wells on, and seeing that. The thing with the Trinity is it's hot and sulfur. It's not the best water, so we would have to build a water treatment plant for the city. So that would also be an expensive cost. Right now, I think EPCOR gets their water from the Carrizo Wilcox aquifer, which is a little further east, and it's better quality, so it isn't treated. But the city, we are just finalizing a water master plan to increase our water supply. And then with new developments, we do enter it into our water model to ensure that we have sufficient supply. So we aren't approving things that we don't have supply for.
Are we taking on Manville since they're having capacity issues?
There has been discussions. I'm not involved in all of them. That could be Public Works and Engineering. But I know Manville has discussed releasing their wholesale areas, which would be Carriage Hills, Bell Farms, and Stonewater. Their retail customers, they weren't, at least when I was in that discussion, they weren't looking to release those, like Village of Manor Commons, other portions of Stonewater, which other stuff, Palomino. There are retail customers for Manville, and they weren't looking to release those, but their wholesale they were, which would be Bell Farms, Carriage Hills, and a large portion of Stonewater. But we would also then have to factor that into the city's water supply, and could we take that on? And I believe at the time of the discussion, we didn't have the supply. We would have to wait until we've acquired additional water supplies.
So it looks like there will be 2 different roads that come out of your subdivision that then connect with roads that are currently in the Shadow Glen subdivision. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Silent Falls Parkway and Caldera Way. Silent Falls is a collector road, so it's 64 feet wide, and Caldera is a typical residential road.
I'm not texting. I'm looking on my phone on the
Okay.
map.
No, you're
Um,
fine.
Which one's Silent Falls?
Silent Falls is the
Is
one
that the
that's,
short one?
yeah.
So I live in Shadow Glen. I don't actually have this problem myself, but I listen because of where I'm at. But I see lots of comments from others in Shadow Glen, especially back that way towards the Shadow Glen Elementary, about the amount of traffic, people that cut through from 973, and then now potentially at least 325 more families that potentially cut through Shadow Glen to get over to 290. Has there been any kind of traffic analysis or anything like that of what that looks like, and any kind of um, um, different things that to look at to maybe keep? What we hear is people going like 50 miles an hour on Shadow Glen
Mhm.
to cut over to 290 right in front of the elementary school. And Travis County won't come out and put any speed hump in. They won't send any sheriffs out to monitor the speed. They just, it's the Wild West.
So to help with traffic problems, I spent a lot of time with TxDOT, Travis County, and Manor on having Okra's road improvements go towards FM 973 because right now 2 lanes, it's just really rough. I've gotten stuck in tons of traffic over there. So we are doing a center lane from Tenahara Monarch Ranches entrance all the way down to, I call it the North Suncrest Loop because it kind of just loops around FM 973, and then we're doing a right-hand turn lane into our project. So the hope is that the center lane helps with the congested traffic as people are trying to turn in subdivisions and holding up more traffic. And so hopefully, especially with the improvements being made at the intersection of FM 973 and 290, people would just want to take FM 973. And so that's why I wanted our improvements to go towards that road instead of it being pieced out to different roads that really didn't create a solution for the subdivision and others around it.
Do you have any sway with Travis County about like road humps on Shadow Glen? Just throwing it out there.
You can always reach out to them. I've worked with landowners that have complaints about speeds on their road, especially old farm roads that, you know, people are using as a cut through now and lowering speed limits. So it's definitely a conversation I've had with Travis County.
All right, commissioners, we got any more questions?
I don't, but I do just have one comment. As a full-time working mom who has donated her time with no pay to this commission for over 6 years, I don't need a man to tell me that it's okay to make a face.
Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
I didn't make a motion. Let me make a motion. I make a motion to close this agenda item.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Vice Chair Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to public hearing number 5. Conduct a public hearing on a subdivision preliminary plat for the Okra subdivision for 325 lots on 113.415 acres, more or less, and being located at the intersection of North FM 973, Old Maynard Taylor Road, Maynard, Texas. I do have Ms. Stewart. Do you wish to speak again, or Mr. Stewart, do you wish to speak again? All right, thank you guys. All right, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So the development agreement for the Okra subdivision allows them to have concurrent subdivision review which is why they were submitted together, so it's on the same agenda, but same subdivision that was just presented. So if you had additional questions, can answer those for you, or again, Rachel can answer them if you thought of something in the last few seconds.
Scott, so this is just one was the subdivision, and then this is just the plat concept. Did I understand that right?
Right. So the concept plan generally sets sort of their number of LUEs, what their demand is going to be on the city system, their phasing, where their main entrances are going to be. Sometimes they get more detailed, so they had their their lot layout and the streets on their concept plan, but concept plans are pretty high level in terms of what we actually just review. And then when you get a preliminary plat, it's more specific into their grading, their drainage, their utility layouts, their street layouts, the lot layouts, and then you get into your construction plans, which are actually the design of those facilities, and then the final plat, which would come before you all once that's approved, and that's sets their legal boundaries for all of the lots, and dedicates their streets or the right of ways to the city once they're filed and recorded. So this preliminary plat is the same subdivision, but it would include more information regarding their drainage and utilities.
All right, Commissioner, do you have any more questions? Can I get a motion to close public hearing number 5?
Motion to close public hearing number 5.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Terry, a second by Vice Chair Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Consent agenda items. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the P&Z Commission and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless requested by the chair or a commissioner, in which the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Moving to consent agenda item number 6, consideration and discussion and possible action to approve the minutes for the May 8th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commissioner regular session.
I move to approve the minutes from the last session.
A second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Vice Chair Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Terry stepped away.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Jerry was. All right. Moving on, regular agenda item. Considering discussion and possible action on a rezoning application for a one lot on 4.47 acres more or less and being located at 16011 East US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas, from agriculture to C3 heavy commercial.
I have a question. Since we had indicated in the public hearing that we were interested in potentially striking through some of the uses, would we have to do that during this meeting now, or could we postpone this and do that via email so that we could come back next time with a clear idea of what we wanted to propose as uses or not?
You couldn't necessarily do it through email, but But if you wanted more time to review the permissible uses in C3 and come up with additional ones, I mean, I would recommend if you wanted to run through them now, we could. I mean, it's not an endless list. And I did provide a list of 8, potentially 9 uses that were my recommendations for removal. But if there are others on there, we can have that discussion.
I think the list that you provided looks pretty good. I would say we do have a lot of gas stations in town, so I'd be inclined to want to add, you know, we don't need another gas station. So to remove the gas stations, as well as to remove like the alcohol related businesses. So distillery, alcoholic beverage, and if there's any others, liquor sales. I'd be inclined to want to remove those as well.
Do we have any more questions, commissioners?
Are there other ones that you guys would like to strike from the list besides what Scott has recommended and the 2 that I suggested?
So I think the biggest one is you're talking about the gas station. I think that's already in the bottom of page 153 where we can add that. So I think that would be the biggest one. That's going to be the biggest concern. I think we can add that one and then possibly move forward or something. So if you look at the bottom of page 153, it has it. We can also remove the gas stations on that part. So it's an option on that end. And so that would support with what they're trying to do in the reducing, I guess, the addition of gas stations.
Yes, so then maybe just the alcohol ones would be the other ones, I would say.
Can I ask a clarifying question? For the vehicle storage facility, that wouldn't necessarily consider like equipment storage. Obviously, we would comply with any sort of screening requirements, but I just want to make sure that if we were striking that use, that we would still be, because like our use wouldn't be equipment storage. It would just be, you know, an incidental use essentially. But I just want to make sure that that wouldn't be an issue at site plan.
So quick question, and I may answer your question. So this is basically a heavy mechanic shop. Is that correct?
Essentially, like it's that is a certain use. Obviously, it's more of a sales and rental sort of function, but as part of like the customer support, there is a part of the facility that we would need to fix some of the equipment.
So you would need to store your equipment to be able to sell the equipment.
Right. And I don't know if we would consider that as it's not a primary use, it's just like incidental to it. So
yeah, so well, two things. The use is similar to, or is the same as like Anderson Machinery or ASCO or Texas State Rentals. So the primary use is sales and rentals of heavy machinery. Vehicle storage, within the definition, it does exclude businesses whose primary purpose is vehicle sales.
Right.
So if you're selling and renting and you're not storing, because vehicle storage gets into, you know, junkyards and those types of uses.
Because right, like you have to have a place for it to store while you're trying to rent, right? So I just wanted to make sure that that would be, yeah, or sell, yeah.
Yeah, I think under the definition, vehicle storage facility excludes like something similar to an auto dealership, which is similar to y'all,
Right.
whether it's rental, lease, or whatever.
Right.
You have to store it till you can sell it or lease it.
Right, exactly. And yeah, maintain. Yeah.
And auto dealerships also do service and stuff sits there a little while till you get the parts in. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you all.
All right, commissioners, any questions? Any more questions?
One question for
Go ahead.
Commissioner Leonard in terms of the, if discussion on the alcohol, because there are quite a few uses that fall under that. Because there's alcohol beverage establishment, which is a bar, but you get into stuff of like breweries, distilleries. I think even winery might be listed, but it goes as far as like, you know, restaurants that serve alcohol. You know, how much in terms of prohibiting alcohol sales, like just full stop, like that we know. If someone were to apply for a TVC permit and we do city permits for alcohol, we would reject their city permit, and so like any sort of alcohol sales would be prohibited.
Yeah, my logic behind that was just the proximity to an office building. I wouldn't want there to be like a full blown liquor store, like or a distillery, or but a restaurant that serves alcohol, I think would be okay.
Okay.
All right. You good, Scott?
Yes, and so well, I say yes, but as to follow up, but so say there's a brewery that wouldn't be permitted.
I would suggest no. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You good now, Scott?
Yes, thank you.
All right. All right, commissioners, we have no more questions or get a motion.
Could I get clarification on which alcohol uses we're striking?
Yeah. So I was thinking alcoholic beverage establishment, distillery, micro and regional, brewery, micro regional, and liquor sales.
I think ideally we would keep some of those, and they are C, like, so that it would require a conditional use permit for some of those. So, just kind of thinking for the future. Obviously, we're not going to have those sort of components right now, but maybe in the future, just for flexibility for the city.
The C for us just means there's conditions on it.
Oh, okay.
The condition is we restrict alcohol sales within 300 feet of a church, school, hospital, or daycare. So that's what the condition is if a business wanted to operate and they were located within that distance, they would have to file a variance with the city council. But currently, to my knowledge, there's no regulated facility, which is what church, daycare, hospital would be over there. So we wouldn't restrict alcohol sales at this time.
With the conditions being there in place, would that be okay? Because obviously right now there's no school or church, but say there would be, because since we're not applying for it right now, it's, it wouldn't be an issue. But further down the road, say a school went across the street and then we, a new person wanted to come in and then they would have to apply, then it would trigger it, of course. But since we're not using it right now, that doesn't really apply. But I didn't know if the conditions being in place already in code, if that made it okay for, say, the restaurant or brewery or something like that.
I think for me personally, I'd rather somebody come back and then try to get that changed than for us just to approve it now, because it's heavy machinery, right? It's construction machinery. So a liquor store next door, to me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or a liquor store within the same place where you're housing construction machinery, or like renting it out.
Right.
I just don't know that those two things go together. If it was like a bar, or, if there was something else that you were building that was conducive of being next to alcohol, then I wouldn't have a problem. But construction and heavy equipment, almost industrial uses, I wouldn't put that next to an alcoholic or alcohol establishment, personally.
Understood. Yeah.
So with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we approve the C3 with the recommendations from Scott and the gas station, and the alcoholic beverage establishment, brewery, micro regional brew pub, distillery, micro regional liquor sales be removed as permitted uses.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Commissioner Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank y'all.
Moving on, regular agenda item number 8. Consider discussion and possible action on the submission of a specific use permit to permit up to 3,860 square feet of medical office and medical clinic in Manor Crossing Block A, Lot 7, being 1 acre, more or less, and located at the northwest intersection of FM 973 and US Highway 290, Manor, Texas.
So this is the property there in Manor Crossing, that's planned to have a restaurant on one side, which is supposed to be that Chipotle, and then they're looking to the dental on the other side, for about 3,800 square feet, 3,900 square feet. In total, it represents, this one request represents less than 1% of the development, and in aggregate with the previously approved 7,500 for the Manor, for the retail connections portion, it's 2.67% of the entire center. So we are recommending approval, since it does still align with the comprehensive plan in terms of the mix of uses, and it's still very low. Generally, if you see shopping centers, they do have a mix of office and retail uses. This one would still be heavily leaning into the retail restaurant side. So we believe it's still appropriate amount of office use.
All right, Commissioners, do we have any questions? All right, Commissioners, can I get a motion for agenda item number 8?
I move that we approve agenda item number 8 on the specific use permit to permit up to 3,860 square feet of medical office and medical clinic in Manor Crossing Block A, Lot 7, at 973 and 290.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Terry and a second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to a regular agenda item number 9. Considering discussion and possible action on subdivision construction variance for the New Haven subdivision for Manor Code of Ordinance, Chapter 10, Exhibit A, Article 3, Section 42B1 to permit modified streets, pavement detail, and being located at the northwest intersection of FM 973 and Greg Lane, Mayor, Texas.
So for this one, see the engineers had plenty of discussion on this one. I don't know where Pauline went. And engineering and public works, they are supporting what is option 2. Option 1 is the city's current standard, but option 2 for the property with the modified cross section, which includes geogrid for both street types. Engineering does recommend the treated subgrade of 16 inches. They have 8 inches for the urban local and 14 for the urban collector. So our engineers say it should be 16 for both, and then they have lime treated subgrade on both, and the engineering says maybe cement, but the geotech here says lime performs better or the same as cement. But that would be there's this option there, if you were inclined to approve the variance. The engineers say you could go with cement stabilized base instead of lime stabilized, but they are saying it should be geogrid on both street types with 16 inches of subgrade thickness. And then I know there was a discussion earlier about the extended maintenance period. That is also possible. I know they said they may wanted to go back, so if that's something to discuss, they may want to have it postponed to have more meetings or discussions on that. But you could, since this is a new street type, if there are concerns about the maintenance, extend those warranty periods. Maybe if the 100-year or 100%, sorry, not 100-year, that'd be nice. The 1 year at 100%, you maybe do like 2 or 3 years, and then so there's a little longer period of time that they would be responsible for that, and then have a year or 2 of that 10%. As the developer mentioned, that is carried by the contractors who build it. So the contractors, when they're bidding it out, would have to agree to those additional terms. But it is a new street type here. If there are, if you do have the serious concerns about the ongoing maintenance, you can make that motion, and if they wanted to, they can request that postponement if they wanted more discussion on that. So.
No, if the smart people say that this is just as good as the other, then I'm willing to back it and make a motion for it if they'll cover it for 2 or 3 years at 100%. So I don't know if they need more time to talk about it, but I'm not the smart people in the room.
So are you saying 2 to 3 years more than 2 years? So like maybe go from 2 years to 5 years, or what do you think?
Well, my understanding from what Scott said was they cover it, or the contractors, somebody other than the city of Manor covers it at 100% for the first year, and then only like 10% that they cover, and then city covers 90% on year 2. If they or their contractors will cover it at 100% for 2 or 3 years, put their money where their mouth is, then I'd be willing to make that motion. But I don't know if you need to go talk to somebody or not. So I'll let, if you need to talk on that.
I think considering that, the maintenance issues would be the same either way, and the majority of the problems don't really come up in the first, for up until 15 plus years usually. I don't know, out here is a little crazy, but maybe doubling, going from maybe just do 2 full years of 100%, which is double what you normally do. That's something that we could probably agree to today.
2 years is better than 1 year.
We have any more questions?
Yeah, so I'm leaning more to postpone this. You can get back and really get to, exactly what your firm would be offering outside of just 2 years, and then that gives time to really discuss with the city staff and understand what our maintenance program actually has, what we already have as kind of the standard thing, what we need to do, and be able to be better informed. Just wouldn't want to agree to 2 years today, and we're missing out, a whole nother side of the picture here. All right.
I'm inclined to postpone as well.
Okay. Outside of that, though, question: are you going to be considering doing different type of pavements and slabs for the homes and other driveways and things like that?
I think our home builders, just like how we did for what we needed, they'll do a geotech report for the ground, and then they'll design their home accordingly to stay within the specs of the city and make it site specific.
So it'd be a different entity you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right, Commissioners, do we have any more questions? Do we have a motion on the?
All right, move to postpone agenda item number 9, decision. This is coming back for both the applicant to discuss for additional maintenance period, and for city staff to discuss and come up with a best practice on what our maintenance period should be, and the legalities around it, percentages, things like that.
Clarification. For the postponement for the date, it would just be to the next meeting in July?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Chavis. Do I have a motion by? I have a second.
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Oppose.
Motion passes.
Hey, before you move on, Chair, I can get an understanding of your opposition, just so I can understand moving forward.
I get that this is kind of a new thing for us in here, but based on what I was looking up while they were talking in regards to the format of how they're building it, and I guess if you want to call it the science behind it, it made better sense to do that part. And given the fact that they were willing to go ahead and add one more year to the roping to the repairs, for me showed that they were more confident in the technology and the way of the development of the process. So for me, I'm like, if they're willing to go ahead and just say yes, we'll make a change right now. If you approve it, that's great, because at first they were hesitant on it, and now that they're saying okay, let's go ahead and do this, I'm like, okay, so they're willing to put both feet forward or into this whole thing. I think at this time we should be able to go ahead and have some faith in what they're doing on that whole process. So, and I come in this as an educator who teaches science, so I understand what's going on in that part and how that looks. So that's my whole reasoning behind it. I'd rather that they go ahead and move forward, but I get it.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving on. Regular agenda item number 10, consider discussion and possible action on subdivision concept plan for the Okra subdivision for 325 lots on 113.415 acres, more or less, and being located at the intersection of North FM 973 and Old Maynard Taylor Road, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this concept plan, it has been approved by engineers, so it is a non-discretionary item as a subdivision item. So we are recommending approval. It is for 325 lots, which is 309 are the single family lots, 1 commercial lot, and 15 open space landscape and drainage lots, split into 3 phases. As Rachel showed y'all, there's 8.8 acres of non-floodplain parkland, 10.9 acres of floodplain open space, and 3.9 acres of detention. They will be constructing 8-foot concrete trails. That is part of the city's trail master plan. So they'll be connecting to the Shadow Glen Trail and extending through their subdivision, which connects into Monarch Ranch, and then up through across Scragg Lane into New Haven's development. And then it also includes the extension of Silent Falls Way, again, through their development. Thank you. And into Monarch Ranch to Gregg Lane, which is consistent with the city's thoroughfare plan. And then they are proposing their TxDOT improvements, which were agreed to by TxDOT, Travis County, and the city, which is that center turn lane from Tinahara Way to the northern intersection of Suncrest, and a right turn lane into their development at their driveway. And then water and wastewater are provided by the city.
Do I have any questions, commissioners?
I do just have a statement to let you know. We are, by Texas state law, allowed to have discretion on some types of items, like zoning. We also, there are other items that we actually are obliged by the state of Texas to approve if they meet the requirements. A concept plan is one of those that is non-discretionary. So we have to vote yes. So with that to be said, I approve agenda item number 10. I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Vice Chair Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Regular agenda item number 11. Consider discussion and possible action on subdivision preliminary plat for the Okra subdivision for 325 lots on 113.415 acres, more or less, and being located at the intersection of North FM 973 and Oak Taylor Road, Maynard, Texas. I do just have a question. That is not me. That is what's written on here. So
that was my planner who was here earlier. He left. You can throw things at him. Sorry about that.
No, not him.
Is
know,
there
I
any
know.
chance we could put in toll booths at those 2 roads into Shadow Glen and then have the money go to the city of Maynard for upkeep of the roads? What? I think this one is also non-discretionary.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve agenda item number 11.
I have a motion by Commissioner Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, regular agenda item number 12. Consider discussion and possible action and amending coordinating sign plan for Commons Phase 1 and 2.
Sure. So this project, these developments, in Maynard Commons Phase 1, that's where the retail center is. That has like a Puerto Rico and Double Dave's in that, and where Panda and Advance, Wendy's, Whataburger. That's Phase 1. Phase 2 is across 973 with the Holiday Inn, the Sherwin-Williams, the Dairy Queen. There is a Phase 3 that's on the way. That's the northeast corner of 973, which is not part of this coordinated sign plan. And so the developer is looking to update the sign plan because when it was originally conceived, I'm not sure if the pad site lots that are being added into this were considered then, but there are 3 commercial lots now behind Bank of America. So Valvoline is in one, Popeyes has submitted to build on another, and then there's one that's, as far as the city knows, not planned for. And so the developer would like to take the same signage that you see on the other pad sites and apply it to those, so those businesses can also have the same type of high profile sign. There aren't any other modifications to the types of signage. It is just adding those 3 pylon signs to those 3 pad sites.
So the sign's not bigger, it's not in any setback, anything like that. It's just advertising 3 more businesses.
That's correct, yes.
Do we have any more questions, commissioners? Can I get a motion for agenda item number 12?
Motion to approve agenda item number 12.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Terry, second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:01?
Move to adjourn the meeting at 9:01 p.m.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.